Hey, Megabig 9001 here. What you're about to watch is me and Delta Pi's panel on content creation from TouhouFest 2023. Be warned that the recording process was a bit messy, so we might jump through different perspectives and audio qualities. The audio starts out a bit rough, but it does eventually get better. PNGs and most slides will also be shown for better reading clarity. Huge thanks to China for drawing the panel promo art, my friend Robert for letting me use his camera, Raltsky for recording the panel, and One Punk Army for giving us permission to use their VOD of the panel. I also want to note that tickets for TouhouFest 2024 are live, so if you want an early bird discount, be sure to grab those off the Eventbrite. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump into the panel. Today we are presenting our panel, Strange Content Creators of the Outer World.
That's very sensitive.
Yeah, so hi, I'm me. So I am currently a video game design major at a school in California. I almost doxed myself. I make Touhou videos about like really random topics that I just kind of randomly think about. I like making fan games, I like writing stories, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, and then I also started the events EOS Day, which was events like last August where the Touhou community got together to make anniversary works for Touhou 6, so that was pretty cool. And yeah, my favorite Touhou games are Mountain of Faith, Double Dueling Character, and Mystic Square. My favorite non-Touhou game is Super Mario Galaxy 2.
So hi, I'm Delta. I'm a Touhou YouTuber. I make videos mainly centering around analyzing the Touhou fandom. The other stuff I do is this thing I call cover swaps, where I just basically compile a lot of different versions of a song into like one video. And I also run the Touhou Hijack account, and my favorite Touhou games are the ones you see on the screen. I'm not reading out those abbreviations. So I got that into the Touhou community in like 2019. So back then I was like trying to find videos, and as you might have heard on Twitter or other places, Touhou YouTube, it is very hard to try to find content, and especially back then there just wasn't the type of content I wanted to watch. This is before like Genso Chronicle, Asprey FM. So I thought, hey, if the content doesn't exist, then I'll make it myself. So yeah, I focus on like analyzing the series. I like general analysis. This got cut off because I like edited this the last 5 minutes before we came here, but the bottom says, I analyze general analysis and fan games. As for me, I actually started out as a non-Touhou YouTuber, specifically analyzing internet culture. And so I did that for a while, I think like about a year, just because I found it really interesting. And eventually I discovered Touhou through Bad Apple, and obviously Touhou is very much something part of internet culture. And and so yeah, I basically merged my old content with Touhou to do Touhou analysis videos. Technical difficulties. All right, Bad Apple.
Yeah, so what kind of connects us together is our first big hit both came from making videos about Bad Apple. So for me, I just kind of got obsessed with it when I was on vacation one time. And I had all these random facts about Bad Apple, but that's not exactly something you would talk about with people in high school lunch, so yeah, I had no one to talk to about it, so I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just compile this all into a video.
And yeah, as for me, I heard Bad Apple first on Siva Gunner actually, and I thought this was a pretty cool song, so I searched it up, and the YouTube algorithm did its magic and gave me more and more Bad Apple covers, and it was like, well, that is a lot of different versions, so I began compiling them together, and
yeah, so our videos were Bad Apple Explained and Bad Apple, but every line it switches to a different version. So these both ended up doing really well, and they're the reason we have our YouTube channels today.
And that was actually how we met, because our videos were released around the same time. But the question is, why is Bad Apple so big on YouTube? Well, first of all, one, there's just a high volume of bad Apple content, so there's just a lot of different remixes out there and covers and whatnot, which means more exposure. But what's, I think, probably the most significant part of it is the tech demo scene with them playing bad Apple on everything. Because of its simplicity, it got adopted by them, and this is important not just because of the tech demo scene, but because the tech scene also intersects with a lot of different communities. So my example is, there's a lot of videos where people play bad Apple on different things in Minecraft, like, you know, sheep, bookshelves, dirt, a lot of different things. And so when someone for the tech scene makes that video, that transports bad Apple into the Minecraft community, which then spreads that among itself. And that, you know, high transmissibility means that bad Apple gets really popular.
Yeah, so these are algorithm graphs from like, I think, a 90-day period for both of our videos. If you notice, there's a spike around the exact same time. So bad Apple ends up recommending itself between all the videos, and it just randomly gets big at random times. It's really weird, but yeah, you can see we have actual data. So if you want to get into content and you want to try to go for exposure, bad Apple is a good place to start.
So we make a lot of different kinds of media and content.
So yeah, Touhou video essays. So yeah, Touhou YouTube, you have like these main things, so musicians, animators, memes. And initially, there were not that many essays. Like, I can think of maybe Cernist, Magi, but yeah, not many. But recently, this has been expanding. Yeah, so for me, it's like, I loved English class in high school, and I'm pretty sure I'm one of the only people who's ever said that, but yeah, I loved English, I loved writing essays, so I used to write essays about video games for fun. Yeah, and then as a game designer, I like making videos that analyze things like game design, and then I'm autistic, and one of my autistic things is I really like seeing how things evolve. So I feel like a lot of that translates into my content.
So again, I got my start actually from a semi-similar point of view, where my humanities teacher made me like record a PowerPoint presentation. And I thought, hey, you know, I can add background music to this, I can add special effects to this. Oh, look, this kind of looks like a video essay, I want to make more of these. And that intersected with, you know, being terminally online, and I just really like looking at internet culture, and just looking at why things are the way they are on the internet, why do things get popular, how does certain communities develop. I don't know, this is like my engineer brain trying to like decipher something that's really complex, but I don't know. And as a result, because Touhou intersects a lot with that, I make specifically Touhou videos about Touhou culture on the internet.
So why the heck are we talking about ourselves so much? Well, it's because this. The type of content we make is the type of content that interests us, and I feel like a lot of that content tends to be channel's best content. So like, Gensel Chronicle, he really likes J.R.R. Tolkien. He made a video on world building and compared J.R.R. Tolkien's world building to Touhou. That's a video only he really could have made. Spirit Eye, who's actually right here, he's really big into PC98. So when he makes a video about what PC98 characters can come into Windows Touhou, the video's really good because he has an intimate understanding of everything that happens. And then our friend Megafrog, he likes analyzing like the meaning behind media, and he also really doesn't like mob mentality. So only he really could have done the Memories of Phantasm defense video.
So this, you know, liking the content that you're looking at is basically one of the essential parts of it. So first, in the steps for creating a video, you first start with the concept, and this is really just anything you're interested in. Sometimes it's something that like recently happened in the community, but other times it's just, you know, random topics you'd like to discuss. And then comes the research phase. Now, this is the most important phase because this is, you know, the meat and potatoes of the video. It's, you know, all that you want to say. It's doing the research, searching out the information that you want to put down, and just noting all of that. And what I've observed is that accuracy is really important in this step because mistakes you make here get carried over. That happened a few times with my r/plays video where I made a few errors with the research, and then I got to like the editing stage and I realized that I don't have anything to show because this thing never actually happened. But yeah.
One sec. If you want to troll, that actually works because YouTube comments raise engagement. So my new thing is, I say Cherno differently in every video because I know no matter what, that's going to piss someone off, and when they leave a comment, that boosts it in the video. So yeah, be accurate, but you can troll. It works.
And then comes the script writing, which is, it's fairly simple. It's just converting what you've researched up into actual spoken text that's comprehensible. And at this point, all the legwork is already done. And then you go to the audio visual. And this is where I think a lot of creators' individual style comes in the most, because that's what people see on the screen. And also another comment, audio is very important. I'm kind of hypercritical because I did not pay attention to audio at all for a lot of my earlier videos, but if people mute the video, they're no longer really getting the video, so audio is really cool. But also, visual style is definitely very apparent because everyone has a different visual style. And if you look at different Touhou content creators, you'll see that there's different visual styles. So that's the step where this emerges. And I personally use actually Microsoft PowerPoint to create a lot of my visuals, which is why my videos look like kind of like homemade. I just love Microsoft PowerPoint. It's so cool. And then there's the editing step. This is the both the easiest and the hardest step. Easiest because you already planned out everything. Hardest because it is just so time consuming. So if I were to edit a 1-minute video, that'd take an hour. And then you just export it. And then you can put in your input on the thumbnail. Do you want to like commission artwork, or do you want to make the thumbnail yourself? And the point is essentially that there's a lot of room for just putting your own style into it. But of course, as the thing with this, video essays aren't the only things we make, and there's a lot of process behind the other things we make. For example, with me with my Touhou Hijack account. So, of course, as the thing with this, video essays aren't the only things we make, and there's a lot of process behind the other things we make. For example, with me with my Touhou Hijack account. So, with this actually started from Karama Dancing. I love that song, that meme. It's like my favorite meme of all time. I'm too obsessed with it. And I watched this video. It's called Karama Dancing from Another Room. It's just, muffled version of it. And I watched that before I got into Touhou. And then, I think like a year or so later, I watched that video again when I had gotten into Touhou, and I was like, hey, that's Flandre Scarlet. I didn't notice that. And then I began looking around and I realized that a lot of the things that I had viewed previously actually had Touhou content, and I just didn't notice it. And I thought, maybe this is something worth looking at. And so I created an account. It actually started out very narrowly as like the Touhou cameos in the outside world. Honestly, I'm still not exactly sure what I meant by that. I more so meant like things that only like Touhou fans would notice, but then I realized that let's just broaden it to just broader Touhou hijacks. And so I just posted a few of the more famous ones. And then we get to the Cebu Satori incident, where this Fumo appeared in the Philippines, and that was the first post that blew up and kickstarted the account. But this account is really centered on the community, because it always begins with a submission, and pretty much all the submissions are just by followers of the account. And obviously, I don't have eyes all over the world, but Touhou fans are all around the world, so they find a lot of different hijacks. So once that gets submitted, I typically do vet submissions just for just significance as well as like how much I can write about it. So for example, I mean, there isn't really much to say if someone sees like a Touhou profile picture in a YouTube comment section. But with my post, I try to focus on unraveling stories, exploring why certain things happened, when they happened, and why these hijacks occurred. So for example, that's a French puzzle magazine, and I discovered that the image that they used on the page was a stock image, and the other magazines that this French publisher put out also used stock images from the same site. So that gives a very clear causation for this incident. The other thing I do is just, compile any important information, like statistics, or any like surrounding circumstances. Like this is like a Vietnamese kid who won a game show with a Yomu Fumo, and like part of my archival duties would be just finding out what were the results of that. Unfortunately, he didn't win, but this was the finals, so he got pretty far. But the question is, why are there so many hijacks? How is this even possible? Yeah, so the way I've often described Touhou community, I stole this quote from somewhere, I don't know where, but it's like the most popular series that nobody knows. In the sense that on the surface, like, it looks pretty small, and is comparatively small, but its influence is really broad and underlying. And this can be seen through how these hijacks occur. Now, there are a few accidental hijacks, typically with anime art being used, because, someone will search up anime art, and Touhou art shows up, and obviously they don't know any better and use it. Occasionally, some of these accidental hijacks are kind of funnier. For example, the first Google hit for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was actually a Touhou parody of the logo. And some poor GameStop manager saw that and was like, okay, this is totally legit. Let's print this all over the northeastern US. And so that's why that's there. But a lot of the hijacks can actually are actually traceable to Touhou fans sneaking in Touhou whenever possible. And that's a really interesting reflection on what the Touhou community is. It means that people who like Touhou or like certain Touhou content, such as Bad Apple, are, for some reason, especially willing to try to get others into it. So then we move back to the community, the Touhou community itself. The Touhou community loves hijacks. But why? Well, first of all, they're just plain cool, like Bad Apple getting played on a Russian military station. That's cool. Some Touhou texts appearing in like Call of Duty, that's cool. Or this one Japanese politician who wears like Touhou-themed glasses, that's cool. But in addition to this cool factor, I found, I think because we are, a fairly niche franchise, appearing in things like this is especially unexpected and especially cool. For example, like Pokemon also gets into a lot of different places, but I don't really see the same enthusiasm for like a Pokemon hijack, so to speak, because Pokemon's already so big, that's to be expected. But that's not the case with Touhou. And that eventually sort of inspires the community. And that's what I'm trying to do with the account, is to, inspire people to make their own Touhou hijacks and to just spread Touhou propaganda across the world.
Yeah, so my turn. Fan games. So yeah, I discovered this place called the Touhou Game Dev Hub thanks to a Magi video. And as many of you know, there are a lot of bad actors in the Touhou community. It is not always fun. This was really the first community I found where I actually felt comfortable and made a lot of friends. So in a sense, getting into making fan games actually helps me join the community. So the Game Dev Hub has these things called game jams, which if you don't know, a game jam is a competition where you get a limited amount of time to make a game, usually 3 days. So yeah, so I want to walk through the process of me making a game for one of these jams. So like, when you develop a Touhou fan game, the first step, well, for any game really, is brainstorming. Like, you can try to come up with ideas, but sometimes things just happen spontaneously. So like, for a Halloween game I was making, my artist brought up the idea of drawing Kisume in a pumpkin basket costume, and I'm like, wait a second, we can draw all Touhou characters in Halloween costumes. And she's like, oh my god, that's amazing. So like, no formal process, that's just us talking on Discord, and we got a game idea. But then, go back. But then it's important for us to like, try to figure out how to make these things happen. So, okay, we want to get all these Halloween costumes. How the hell is that going to work in 3 days? So we came up with the idea of getting an individual artist to draw each costume. And then the weird thing is, a lot of game development isn't actually spent like typing code or even creating assets. A lot of my time is spent on Google Sheets, just making sure everyone is organized and assigning things properly. So if you have no game development experience, but you like organizing, there's actually a really good place for you for making games. Yeah, so programming looks different, but surprisingly, behind a lot of games, the code is really simple. For this game, I'm essentially just combining 3 different colors of boxes together to make food, and that's the entire game loop. So if you're starting to code, you don't need to know much to make a good game. And then a look at the game can go a long way. So behind the scenes, it's simple. Yeah, but then we have that prototype. So you have all this stuff. So what happens when you combine it together? You get Touhou Spider Bites, which is a fan game I'm showing off at the Game Dev Hub, but also is a game we made in 3 days for the Halloween Game Jam. And yeah, just from all of that, we were able to create a lot of cool things. So Touhou fan games. So like, Touhou's derivative work policy, as you know, is really, really nice. You are allowed to publish a fan game as long as you follow guidelines, not talk to a lawyer, and make money off of it. And it's also really good for a resume. If I went to Nintendo with a Mario fan game, they would punch me in the face. If I go to Nintendo with a Pokemon fan game, they would also punch me in the face. If I go to Nintendo with a Touhou fan game, hey, they might actually take a look at me. And then from doing all these game jams, my resume went from like 1 game to 13 in like, I don't know, 2 years. So yeah, Touhou's open nature means you can make a variety of genres. I made a visual novel, I made an adventure game, then the Halloween one is a puzzle game. So if you want to get into Touhou fan games, there's like a big place for it. It's really good for a resume, and you have a lot of room to experiment and let loose. So linked content. So we told you about these different types of content, but something else that can work for content creation is combining a ton of things you like. So for me, I put trailers for all my fan games on my YouTube channel. So that's like combining my fan game audience with my YouTube audience. My reviews of the Game Jam show off different fan games to show, hey, these fan games are really cool, so you might like making them. That's presented more in my traditional essay style. And then Touhou writing device. I write Touhou visual novels, I write fan fiction. So by making that video, I'm kind of doing both at the same time, which just makes me really happy.
As for me, I don't actually make that much link content, but that's just more because I don't release that many videos in general. But hijacks are actually link a lot to internet culture, and I'm sure they would fit quite well on my channel. So, and I have posted at least 1 link video with my art/plays video, which is a video about a hijack. And so as for me, link content is definitely something that I can do. It's just that I never really do it that often because I don't make that many videos.
Yeah, so we have pretty big differences in style, and this is important because all creators have differences. So I tend to upload a lot because here's an example. I was talking with friends on a Discord server, and someone said as a joke, actually I think it was me, I was like, hey, I wonder which Touhou character has the best outfit. That turned into a 15-minute conversation. I'm like, okay, that's a video now. So for me, whenever I have a random thought that I think is mildly interesting, I just funnel it into a video. And then also in the context of my channel, I tend to analyze the actual content of this series itself more.
Yeah, as for me, I just upload videos whenever I finish them, which usually takes a while. And actually, I found that the thing that spurs me on the most is special days like Cherno Day. Cherno Day, I gotta release it on September 9th, so that makes me actually finish the video. So yeah, I usually have a lot slower content release. And my topics, focus more on the fandom and the community of the series. Though I'm not, opposed to looking at the series itself. That's also interesting. But a lot of what Touhou Content Creation is community, connections.
Yeah, so working with other people. So there are many Touhou fans out in the world. So having a pool of collaborators or, just hanging out with your friends, that can help make content better. And in some cases, you can even work with people outside of the community.
Yeah, so connections are really important. As for the Hijack project, I think the biggest connection is the international connections because hijacks are, global things. So on the bottom, those are some of our Discord icons with, some of the various countries that are represented in the server. Go follow the artist's goal. I think the best way to demonstrate this is with an example, specifically the Baltic Sudoku instance. So in about June of 2022, I received this hijack submission of a Touhou Sudoku magazine in Latvia. And then I received a submission of the same magazine in Estonia. So logically, if there's an Estonian Sudoku Touhou magazine and a Latvian Touhou Sudoku magazine, there must be a Lithuanian one. So I send my friendly neighborhood Lithuanian, he's actually one of the mods, on a quest to go, and he goes on this month-long journey to try to find a Touhou Sudoku magazine. And months go by and he still hasn't found any. In the meantime, more Estonian magazines come in, and he still hasn't found any. And then one day, I get this ping, and it has this image in it. I'm telling you, this was like one of the happiest days of my life. So with this, the Baltic Sudoku trio was completed. But this Touhou Sudoku magazine in Lithuania probably wouldn't have been found if it weren't for that Latvian submitting that Touhou magazine to my account. So international connections, having them all centralized in the sort of Touhou hijack community means that more hijacks can be discovered and more hijacks can be explored.
Yeah, so for me, my connections come in a lot of places. So the top left is my game, Heart of the Tiger. That actual screenshot contains the work of around 8 different people. So making games takes a lot of people, but yeah, so having friends helps with that. I have a really great friend named Aqua. He's awesome. He's primarily an artist, but he also streams on Twitch. So sometimes collaborations happen in ways I don't expect. Despite being an artist, we both made a video together, and it was really fun. So then the bottom left, I have a friend named Blue Ribs. They're not in the Touhou community. I asked them to draw for my game, and they were happy to. So that's an example of that. And then Become Fumo. A lot of people in the server I know, they don't make content at all. I just said, hey, I want to check out Become Fumo for a video. Does anyone want to play? And because I had friends in other servers, hey, I have another video. And then Touhou TV, which was my most recent one, that was a showcase of a ton of different channels that I really liked their content. So I was able to get all those together, and yeah, that felt great. Yeah, but for me, the biggest culmination was EOS Day, which was, I believe, August 11th, where we celebrated the 20th anniversary of Embodiment of the Scarlet Devil. So I'm friends with Quarium Arts, who is a very popular artist on Twitter. They made a really good video essay for that, so I was able to spread it around to a few creators I know, and eventually, we actually trended on Twitter, and we even got our own YouTube page. So in terms of collaboration, that is probably the thing I am the most proud of. So yeah, we've talked a lot about us. But now, if you're looking to get into content, what are things you can do? So, if you want to make Touhou content, I have good news. There's actually a pretty high demand for anything Touhou. You have video essays, the bad apple stuff, you have animations, gameplay videos, news videos, remixes. Like, if you want to make Touhou content, there's actually already a good chance it's going to find an audience, so you have an advantage. That being said, it's still good to find some more underexposed topics. So Asprey did like a world record video. That was surprisingly uncommon. I'm going to plug myself. I analyzed a specific storyline from Chernov's Touhou 9 wrote in a video essay format, and that also doesn't happen much. And then, like, icebergs. Those were a huge thing. No one had ever made a Touhou video on it, so Megafrog sees the chance and he got a hit video. And yeah, when you do make content, play into your strengths. Top left one is from a YouTuber named Catapult. Their advantage is they are really, really funny. Like, they are probably the funniest Touhou YouTuber on the site. So what they do is all their editing is emphasizing their commentary because that's what makes his videos work. Then Magi. I have no idea how Magi does this. He knows like literally every single piece of Touhou fan content. So there was a point where he was essentially making a weekly video on just 5 random pieces of Touhou content. And yeah, that series was great because a lot of Touhou fans are able to find works, and he was a good host of that. And then Mino. Mino like does Lunatic Runs of Touhou games. He does like RNG patches. He knows a lot about the game's mechanics. So when he makes like a more funny video about why double dealing character is the most broken game in the series, it really works. And like we were saying before, it really doesn't hurt to have friends. So there's a design going on called Welcome to Gensokyo that's going to combine the works of like 50 artists and then like fan fiction writers. The Touhou Station Game Jam was a game jam where the American community, the Japanese community, and all the countries around the world, they all came together to make different games. So they're like a wide variety of cultures. It was cool. And then again, our friend Megafrog ran a podcast where he just interviewed different members of the community. So yeah, those are our that's our crash course for getting started. So again, as I was saying before though, I'd say one of the biggest challenges of Touhou is just, community is so big, it's really hard to find good places. So we just wanted to give a starting guide. So in my personal opinion, the Gensokyo Radio General Discord is probably the best place to start because it's very general purpose. It has an emphasis on community, on like content creators, but the people there are also pretty nice. I mentioned before, but I really like the Touhou Game Dev Hub. Like even if you don't make fan games, that's a pretty nice place to hang out. With things like the Pride Jams, it's very tolerant. Like there's no bigotry that goes on there whatsoever. Yeah, and the people are just chill.
Yeah, shameless plug for the Touhou Hijack LOL Discord server or Hijack Court. It's just a really chill community, and the more eyes out there looking for Touhou Hijacks, the more everyone benefits. But another thing I wanted to talk about was just your local communities. For example, universities, which is why I'm showing the Discord student hub icon. Because I discovered that there are a surprising amount of Touhou fans out there. I remember when I first got to university, the first Discord server I joined, I looked around it and I see this Oku profile picture, and I had to do a double take because I was like, wait, what? And then we got together, and then we looked out for other Touhou profile pictures on our university Discord servers, and we started a nice little Touhou club. So I would encourage you to just look around where you are. You might be surprised about what people you can find.
Oh yeah, this is me. Okay, so yeah, then just having general private servers between friends is also good. Just talking about Touhou and stuff. So yeah, I have a few servers that are just me and some mutuals I have on Twitter. It's so there we can just talk in private and then maybe formulate content.
And yeah, we now move on to the questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening and bearing with those technical difficulties. But
If you have any questions, put it in chat and I'll see if I can ask them.
Yeah. So it is 2:42.
So we actually do have time for questions.
We do have time for questions.
Anyone wants to ask any?
Any questions?
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, go and put it in chat and I'll shout at them.
Oh, so my favorite of my Touhou fan games is Dance of the Inverted Heart. That was a visual novel I made in 2 weeks. But I remember, because I worked with a ton of different composers, every composer I'd ever worked with at that point. I made a custom visual novel engine. I worked with DJ Thunderheart and Wookiewalk, who I made 5 games with. That was the first game where we just were on it. You're in the zone, you're working perfectly with each other. And then I wrote a story. I didn't realize it about the time, but Sage's journey in rejecting her biology was actually representative of me discovering my sexuality. And it's that was something that didn't occur to me until after the game was done. But just the amount of work that went into it, and also the reception it got. seeing people love the game so much. That was the first time in my game development career where I'm like, wow, I might actually be able to do this. Like, I've really made it. And like, the Game Dev Hub has so many talented developers, and I finally felt worthy of like being in there. So it just made me feel amazing.
It's very good. I recommend it. I'm for it.
Thank you.
As far as Touhou content creators, and I've had a lot of experience in this in the past, but how do you guys handle drama, if there is any, on your platform or in groups?
Okay, I don't think you've had much drama.
No, not really.
Yeah, this is something I've actually had to do. If you don't know, there's drama over the Touhou wiki where, like, yeah, people said it was shippers changing things. It was actually just this one asshole who thought this very, like, weird, this very, like, standard text was gay for some reason. So he's like, stop shipping, get your mind out of the gutter. So, yeah, understandably, the LGBT Touhou community was pissed. My problem was I spread misinformation. So I thought this was the actual staff doing this. No, it was just one guy. So when I made that tweet where I'm like, I said I'd make a video about it and then they banned me from the Discord, that did real harm because it wasn't the wiki staff. It was the one guy. So that was my fault. So from there, that's where I realized when you get a following, you have a social responsibility to deal with things like that. So yeah, now before things go on, I always make sure to just verify everything. And again, it's important to take accountability for stuff like that. So yeah, I guess the big thing for me for dealing with drama is after that, yeah, just verify everything before I get really mad about something, and that's what I do. So I guess, yeah, be careful, double check.
From a professional standpoint, how good it would look on your resume if you make Touhou fan games?
So this is the weird thing, because at first glance you might not think that would look that good, but here's the thing. When you work for a video game company, you're creating games in existing IPs. When you make original games, you don't do that. So it actually looks really good, because it equips you for like a skill set that most people like don't have, because they're like making indie games for like all their college stuff. So it's surprising, but yeah, making Touhou fan games is actually really good for a game development resume.
When it comes to artists that are, I guess, somewhat meddling in the Touhou community, if they want to get into game development, is there a big demand for artists, and where would they apply?
There is a very, 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 very big demand. Like, you have no idea. Whenever there's a game jam, there's always a programmer looking for an artist. So if you go to the Touhou Game Dev Hub Discord, if you search up like Touhou Game Jam, there's a link on the most recent jams. There's this looking for team panels, or like channels. So like, you just say, hey, I'm an artist, I would like to join a game team. You do that. And then yeah, it's actually really easy to find a team. I think the person behind you had a question.
If you were to go back and reflect on your content creation journey, if there's one thing you could fix, what would it be and why?
I did mention this previously, but my audio. Oh man, it is not. I've gone back to it and realized, okay, you know what? Maybe I should have like actually used the microphone. Now I think that's the case with a lot of things. Obviously, you know, your production quality improves over time. But there are a lot of things to just get started. A lot of good things to get started with, and I think that having at least good audio is one of the best things you can do.
Yeah, so I would also go with audio. If you listen back to my older videos, a lot of my audio quality is terrible. But also, I think in like my first 5 videos, I don't have a drop shadow on the text. And it looks absolutely horrid. Like you can barely read it. And you know what it takes to add drop shadow to a text? You go to the text, you select add drop shadow. That's literally it. So if I just spent time on Google to see how to edit my videos better, those early videos would have been better. And it's like, since one of those watched my channel, who knows? Maybe it would have had even more views if I just bothered to look into editing more. So yeah, that would be mine.
Question for Delta. I think it's really interesting the way that you cover the hijacks that you do. And I guess I'm curious what inspired you to go so deep into the historical element of what causes a hijack to happen.
Being terminally online. Well, I think my first step is when I'm researching hijack is I look into why it happened. That's a really good first step. And I discovered that whenever I do that, I end up discovering a rabbit hole of information. And it's just really interesting information. I feel like, the whole Touhou community should hear about it. I think this was like best exemplified with the Japanese politician with the Touhou glasses. First, the image that had been spreading around the Touhou community was just a photo of him with the Tenchi glasses, which is cool by itself. But then I realized as I researched it that he did a lot more than that. He has like a whole collection of Touhou glasses. I think he sold a doujin work somewhere. He does like VTubing, and that's a really interesting story. And I feel like with hijacks, people usually only get like the surface of it, like, oh, this thing happened. But it's really an endless rabbit hole, and I really like to just explore that, to learn about that, and to tell other people about it. You with that?
Steve?
Yeah.
Oh, in your opinion, which is better fan base, the Eastern or the Western?
For different reasons.
Well, I always work under the mentality of, the main difference between the Western and Eastern fan base is how big it is. So, yeah. Because I'm sure you guys know about things like, how the Momiji fandom is portrayed here is really not the best, but there are some people like that in the Japanese fan base, too. When the Yukuri thing was happening, there was a bomb threat called. That wasn't us, that was the Eastern fan base, But I feel like because of the size, I would actually say the Eastern fan base is better, because this is, the second Western Touhou convention that's ever happened. The East is about to enter what I think is the 20th, annual convention, yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with, different cultures. It's just a size thing on why I would consider the Eastern community to be better. Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah. This is actually, this is a very good point. This is something I do want to change, because I feel like the big thing is artists are scared of feeling like they're making their programmer do too much work. They just came up with this wild idea and now someone's doing it and all they're doing is drawing pictures. Well, the real secret about game development is that the programmers don't do most of the work. It's usually the artists, especially for game jams. Artists have to do a lot. So, yeah, it is a weird thing, but yeah. I feel like there's this very great example, I think last Pride Jam, where someone posted a mock-up of a Kirby game they wanted to make, a Kirby Touhou-style fan game, and then another programmer saw it, they made the game, it was awesome. So, I guess, yeah, looking around for ideas artists post and maybe being hey, I think this would be a cool game, you want to make it, would be cool. I'm sorry, I don't have a really good answer for this since it's a cultural thing, but yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. I have one thing to say, which is, I know Pearl Drop gets a lot of flack for his content. I actually respect him deeply because he gave me a shout out, I think, 2 Christmases ago, and I think I got 200 subs in one day. So, Gensokyo Boys is an entire rabbit hole. I know a guy who used to run their Discord server. Let's just say it wasn't pretty. Yeah, but for Paradrop, like, yeah, he makes, like, repetitive content, but he also likes to branch out. Like, he makes the 2-minute Touhou videos where he, like, analyzes the songs. Those are really cool. Like, yeah, and he shouts out a bunch of smaller channels. So, like, I mentioned Catapult earlier. That's how I found him, through Paradrop. So, like, yeah, not involved with Gensokyo Boys, but Paradrop is a creator I respect immensely.
Yeah, for me, that was before my time, but yeah, Paradrop does have a lot of other content beyond his memes that are really cool.
Yeah. I know you were raising your hand for a long time.
Going back to the topic of resume, so what is your choice of platform for displaying your games? Like specifically Touhou games, is there a platform that you sort of use? Or is it
So, all of my games, well, I assume since you play them, you know
this is
they're
the
on
question.
itch.io. So, yeah. This is something I'm actually really bad at, but yeah, this is something I learned in university where the best general way to display a resume for games is essentially to have like a custom Google site, which is free, it's easy to set up, and then you don't want to have the actual game demos because the person recruiting, they don't have time to play your games. Instead, you want like gameplay gifs, you want a description of what you did in the game, what you learned from it, and videos. So the best way to display a resume is like that. So like now, my resume is just, I have like a playlist of all my game trailers, which isn't the best. But in the future, that is what I would do, and yeah, that's what I learned in school. Yeah.
So if you make a fan game, where would you put it to get the most amount of views or to get the most amount of people to see what you just made?
So in the Touhou game jams, there's always going to be someone who, there's always going to be people who play all the games. So you want to get your start as a game creator, that's a good start. Yeah, itch.io, there's a Touhou tag, there's people who browse there. Then, this is true, I have a few friends who've actually put Touhou fan games on Steam. And I believe the fee is only $100 and then you can publish a game. So, yeah, I know, especially from experience, like, not everyone has that kind of money, but yeah, if you do want to make a game in the spirit of Touhou of just like spraying it around and getting people to play it, then yeah, itch.io and Steam are probably the two biggest choices right now. Itch.io is free, by the way.
Are there any other questions? Oh. I did share this earlier, but I think I personally find the GameStop Touhou really interesting, very funny because it amuses me how they just picked the first. It was literally the first Google hit was a Touhou parody of it, and I just find it really amusing that nobody caught that out, and it was also like really high up. It was by the it was an order from the regional manager of the northeastern U.S. So it got printed out in from I think I believe it was Minnesota all the way to I think Connecticut or New Jersey. So one, it was really broad, which and two, it's just really funny how it happened.
Yeah, I know this isn't related, but I think my personal favorite hijack is, does anyone here like the Secret Ceiling Club? Yeah, I love the Secret Ceiling Club, and yeah, one of the hijacks on that account was this official science journal that was published. They're these little minifigures around diagrams, and in the corner of one of the pages, there's just a little Maribel and Renko, and that's adorable, and I love that someone was able to sneak that into an official science magazine. Yeah, is that everything?
I guess so, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming out. Yeah. If you want to talk to us, we'll probably be here for a few more minutes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.